Very glad to be a part of this forum and here to talk about digital transformation. And I'm humbled by the fact that there has been an elaborate presentation on digital already, so I would not get into too much of technology here because you've touched upon many of the things that technology talks about. But I'll pick up on two things that came out here. One was, you mentioned that solution looking for a problem. And that situation is a very, presents itself in a very risky proposition as well. Because as the old age saying goes, if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem will seem like a nail. And we know better from our basic mechanical engineering that that's not the case, right? So we need to understand what are we solving for. And I think that was a very good point made. So I think before we delve into the digital transformation journey, I would say three things that we need to take into account as organizations and as governments. First is the value. What is it that we are going to derive out of it? What are we solving for, and what is the outcome that we will get? When I ask questions on this point to people, what do you mean by digital? The answers that came to me or come to me all the time are all technology oriented. So I'm asking you a question, what is digital? You'll say mobility, cloud, analytics. Is it all that digital is all about? Yes, it is. Because these are the core technologies, but that's not the end of it. These are the means to achieve an end. Now, if I ask you, do you find a correlation between digital and Abida improvement or profitability improvement for your organizations? Is Abida the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk about digital? How many of you in this room says, when I think of digital, I think of Abida improvement? Can I have a show of hands? That's excellent. And the reason why I'm asking this question is that intuitively it doesn't come. And hence the key question, the first pillar that I'm going to emphasize is value at the core of it. The second factor is riskless experimentation. You talked about the POCs or the proofs of concept. There is a saying that if you don't take risk, you will not get the returns. The very fundamental of business, all of you sitting in this room, is this risk and returns are correlated. But one of the fundamentals of digital is because it is changing so fast, you need to take risks and you need to fail. But you need to fail fast and need to fail cheap. Because if you bet your company trying to fail and experiment, that's not a great business strategy. So the second part is, how do you take riskless experimentation to create what the technologists call a minimum viable product, right? What is a minimum viable product? How many of you use LinkedIn? All of us, right? When LinkedIn started, it was just a web page and a login. Did they wait for all the features of searching for the keywords, enabling a machine-enabled? When you do chat on LinkedIn today, it can chat on your behalf. It understands the responses and it can give responses because it knows that all of you are busy executives. When it started, it didn't have. Still, 80% of its usage today is a web page and a login, enabled on a mobile device. But it launched it. So the advantage of launching it was that it created the movement that it required to grow to scale. And that scale enabled it to add the features. So that's an example of riskless experimentation with minimum viable product. And last point that I would like to say is, we are living in an age of digital, and it may sound ironical and contradictory that Accenture, for example, talks about human-centered design. Because we can have intelligent enterprise, but it's the people who are going to make it work. We are talking about the most disruptive of technologies, But I, for sure, as a professional and as a part of a company which is a leader in digital, I strongly believe that everything, even in digital, humans have to be at the center of these things. So the takeaway from these three things are value, riskless experimentation, and keeping people at the center of whatever you do. You are assured of success. Now with this, I would not take a lot of time in present because let's have a question and answer session, but I have a few slides which I will go through very quickly. And you know, everybody talks about digital disruption, which is the new normal, the things that you see here, which is flashing. Even the disrupting technologies are getting disrupted. Recently, I thought of an example. Zomato was a player in digital. All of us know Zomato. We know it's a digital player. Who thought in 1 year Zomato will get disrupted? Who is disrupting Zomato? Sorry? Swiggy. So even the disruptors are not safe. So the pace of change is so fast that if we blink, we may miss the trend. So how do we keep our eyes open and even see every opportunities to disrupt? When I say disrupt, it's in a positive sense, by the way, because at the end of the day, the customers get the benefits. Too big to fail. What does this picture tell you? On the background is a dinosaur. You know, dinosaur was the biggest of the species that one could ever imagine. They became extinct. But so have 151 out of global 500 Fortune companies from 2010. In less than 2 decades, they do not exist. The striking fact about this entire statistics is that never ever in the history of the postmodern world, as we call it, post-industrial revolution world, has so much of change happened in so less a time frame. Means something has changed. The pace of change driven by the disruptive technologies are just one of the reasons why companies which didn't even exist on paper in 90s, late 90s, are today the most valuable companies in the world. So the idea is, how do we keep on the pace of change? Now, when you do the change, there is a very simple framework which talks about digital can do 2 things to you. Either you improve on the core business and you create new business opportunities. So for example, I can use it, and the topic of the day is also about reliability, availability, efficiencies. Of course, you can do it, and you can do more of it. We have seen examples. We talked about connected worker, amazing way to kind of enhance the efficiency, productivity, and safety of workers. We have done it in India, by the way, with one of the clients, very successfully. But when you take out all the efficiencies, it also creates new business models for yourself. So the same company can now think of, can I move from a pure B2B, business to business kind of model to a business to customer kind of business? Let's say a steel company says, I can keep on selling to a small fabricators who will then sell to the end customers, because this is impossible for a multi-million ton steel company to reach the homemaker like me, for example. But today's digital technology is presenting those opportunities where you can reach out to the last moment. For example, how many of you have heard about Parvesh doors that Tata Steel is selling? I was building a home, so I am very recent to this, and Tata Steel happens to be one of our clients. It is possible to reach the customers. And this changes the business model because you create that pull which was not possible many years back. So the 2 examples of, for example, taking the connected worker example and bringing efficiencies in the plant to actually creating new business models where I can, instead of selling steel, I sell doors as a complete end-to-end solution, is a change in business model. So this talks about both the things which can happen at the same pace and same time, but in different steps. But when you take about this journey, it's a broadly 3 steps. First is to invent, to see what new technologies are there, putting humans and people at the center of it to invent what can be done. For example, the JV example that you talked about is blockchain is to say, yes, blockchain is a technology, and I have got these transactions happening, how can I enable it with? So that is the invent part. But when you do it, to what extent can you do it? You have to incubate it. And to incubate, you can either do at your plant, you can do it in a partner's lab, or you can just experiment at a very small scale. But when you get the success, you have to industrialize. And that's where your technology backbone and your entire intelligent architecture of the organization comes, which were talked about by Ansari. So, but I would like to emphasize that that's the third step of the process. And hence, it is very important to keep it in the perspective, but not to start that as an end in itself. This I would not drain because you already talked about. Now we come to the technology parts, which we all of us have seen. How many of you have talked about Industry 4.0? So we all talk about it. We say that we are in the fourth stage of industrial revolution, and sometimes it's very scary when people say that your jobs will get replaced by machines. Well, I'm not seeing that happen on a day-to-day basis, but it presents a very, very scary scenario. But it also presents an amazing amount of opportunity to leverage the efficiencies that are already there for you to capture. So for example, today, I cannot replace a set of people who have the skills, but I can definitely create a mechanism where they can be more efficient by connecting, let's say, bringing in, just to give you an example, bringing in predictive asset management, which links the best maintenance practices to the technology of linking the failure modes to the causes. It was always there, but today it can be done on the fingertips of a worker, or it is present for them to utilize whenever they can utilize, which means it is not a contradiction. It works together, it works hand in hand. And that's what we need to foster. But at the end of the day, the change that is happening is because of two factors. The costs of technology, the hardware costs and the software costs, have gone down exponentially. And the power of computing has gone up exponentially. They say every Moore's law, how many of you are aware of Moore's law? It says that every 2 years, the computing power doubles. So you know, if something doubles every 2 years, what happens in 20 or 30 years? You reach what is called as the second half of the chessboard, which means the power is unimaginable. The mobile phones that we are carrying today has more computing power than mainframes of 80s, right? I mean, can anybody guess how much this mobile phone could have costed in the 80s? If it could have been made of this size. First, it is impossible to make it of this size, because miniaturization is the thing that drives digitalization. But if it were to be done, few crores?
Just before you came, I gave that example.
Okay. So,
Mainframe, which was big room like this.
yes.
And more powerful than that is in your pocket.
So we didn't talk, but we have the same example. That's great. And the simple statistics is a GB of data in 80s would have costed you 200,000, or approximately 1 crore of rupees. A GB of data more than 1 crore. And if you take into account, I mean, how many GB of data I have around. So the point that is very simple. Today I can think of connecting workers who are paid, let's say, 2 lakhs a year. I mean, the connected devices that we talked about would have costed so much that you would have thought it's not worth it. But today, the cost of those devices are very, very low. But the ability of the platforms, the things which can take the data, analyze, and give you the useful information, either in a descriptive manner, which is to say what is happening, or a predictive manner, which says what could happen, or a prescriptive manner, which says what you should be doing if this thing is happening. For example, a worker in a wrong place where safety incidents can happen, is exponentially more. It would have been too expensive even 10 years back. But today, it is possible. Hence, we are in Industry 4.0. We talked about some of the areas. I think there were a lot of examples, so I'll not drain this. But there are some points which, this is also a survey which was done, and this was for an oil and gas company, but practically, all manufacturing companies, industrial companies have identified areas like asset maintenance, production optimization, the equivalent of drilling, which will be, all the core operations, and capital project management. Just to take you one example, in India, in capital project management, we as Accenture has developed a platform which can connect men, machines, and materials in one common platform. Now imagine if somebody is investing multi-billion dollars in building up a new capacity with thousands of workers and thousands of equipment moving in an open space where manual data entry and reconciliations with contractors and subcontractors happen in a very, to say the least, most inefficient of ways. This presents a tremendous visibility to start with. And companies have also selected this as one of the areas which companies can take to bring in huge amount of efficiencies in terms of costs, schedules, and risks. It's up and running, and we have been very glad that when we started this journey, people said that I don't know where we are going. It's like driving in a fog. You know what driving in a fog is. But they said, okay, you be our fog light. And we were very nervous to say that, be a fog light in a technology which is emerging with so many changes, etc. But we took this journey in the form of a sprints, which means every 6 months we will validate where we have reached. And we would get more clarity, which finally led to creation of this platform for this company. So these are some of the examples, and again, it links back to the same thing: do riskless experimentation, get value, get buy-in, and then scale up, which will give you huge amount of savings. This company got a tremendous, now no contractor. For this company, contractors make all of us know, sometimes we lose money, but this company is not going to lose any money, at least for the areas where it has been implemented, because everything is on the system. And there's no violating, because it combines the IIoT, which collects the data from the field, and does the analytics on a real-time basis. So I think these are some of the examples of how companies in India have been able to do this. And by the way, my focus is mainly India business. I have the information from the global markets, but I operate, live, breathe, and make a living in the India market. So that means all that I'm talking about is with the progressive clients from India itself. This is another example of, I talked about value. Now, this does not look like a digital slide, but it is not meant to be. Because when we said you need to do a digital transformation, this company said that, let's talk about the key levers that I will use, which is profitable growth, enhanced efficiency, and sustainability. And we first quantified the value that you can first get out of this entire initiative. And this is just a quick case study sir, do we have, how we are doing on time? Because then I'll
overshot that time.
So I will just end this by saying that it's a 3-stage process that we took, which first started with opening the minds of people, focusing on value that could be delivered, and finally, the results were for everybody to see. I also have a video which is 4 or 5 minutes, but I think in the interest of time, maybe if you are interested, I can show the video where you will see the example of an Indian company which has taken this journey where we were partners.
Yeah, please.
You have this video? Can we just? So, because
digital technology-driven innovation is vital to stay competitive in today's business environment. But how should companies embark on a digital transformation journey? What's the practical route that can ensure success? Tata Steel Tubes SBU found the answer by taking a calibrated approach to adopting advanced digital technology for agile, smarter, and faster operations. This is the story of how Tata Steel Tubes SBU and Accenture, a trusted digital transformation partner, created a practical route to digital transformation for unlocking business value.
So at Tubes Division, we identified the business goals that would be met through the digital initiatives. These include zero harm, higher employee productivity, better market sensing and responsiveness, improved quality, and delivery expectation, amongst others.
The Tubes SBU's digital transformation journey has been designed with multiple waves of strategy and implementation, which will be conducted concurrently.
This journey of transformation started with building a strategic roadmap. After 8 weeks of intense brainstorming session in collaboration with Accenture, we identified 43 digital initiatives. These initiatives are spread across 5 digital tracks: connected intelligent plant, fencing and shaping market, agile and responsive supply chain control tower, EPA in a box, and platform-based services and solutions.
The use cases for these initiatives were selected on the basis of business impact, strategic fit, and scalability across Tata Steel. The 3 initiatives considered in Wave 1 are: 1. Video analytics for safety. 2. Predictive asset management foundation. 3. Digital sales platform.
Now, this, just to interrupt, these 3 initiatives were chosen on the basis of what would work, give the maximum value. And this safety first was one of the stated things. This video analytics actually could predict if the worker is moving without an helmet, you don't need to monitor. The intelligent image capturing would transfer the information back at the right time when the incidents could be prevented. Or there was a chat bot which could send the information back to the manager automatically. There's no human writing those text messages. The chat bot interacting with the supervisor saying that there is a violation and you can act well in time. So, sorry.
These digital initiatives were successfully completed in 14 weeks and are already reaping the benefits. Some of the key learnings from Wave 1 are: use an agile approach to digital execution. Design an end-to-end consolidated strategy. Create a proof of concept. Buoyed by the success of Wave 1, Tubes SBU and Accenture configured Wave 2 to take on additional initiatives such as: 1. Predictive Quality Management Foundation. 2. Supply Chain Control Tower. 3. Engineering of Smart Warehouse. Additionally, Tata Tubes extended Predictive Asset Management Foundation to other machines in the plant, identified a technology architecture related to Industrial Internet of Things, scaled up the digital sales platform initiatives and the tube counting solution. At its full scale, the pilots deployed in Wave 1 and 2 is likely to yield benefits of over ₹40 crores per annum.
The success of the 2 waves delivered along with Accenture has shown the way for other businesses in Tata Steel. The approach, methodology, and associated learning have inspired confidence, not just in the Tubes business, also in the entire Tata Steel organization. After gauging the impacts and lessons from the journey of digital at Tubes, we have now launched Project Marvel, making analytics really valuable, efficient, and logical. The future of digital looks very bright. We at Tata Steel are committed to become world leader to harness the power of digital. I look forward to your continued support and infectious enthusiasm.
With this ongoing journey of innovation, Tata Steel Tubes SBU aims to stay always agile, smart, and safe.
So, you know, this is, instead of me presenting, I think this is the client talking about, because they've gone through the journey. And all the elements that we talked about in terms of the value, the experimentation, and the human-centered design were embedded in this entire program. And now we are doing it at a much larger scale. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I think whatever points you could think were worthwhile, please try and apply, because application is the key. Knowing is only the first step. Thank you very much.